Then we have this group of 5 divisions. They normally come sort of in that bundle because they are specialties, things that we don't build on site. We buy them and then have them installed or install it by our crew. They not very easily to categorize or group. You know, some people put these elements in different areas of the estimate. Mostly, you know, some of the work has to be subcontracted because it's a specialty. So there are companies that specialize in fabricating and installing this equipment. Here are some of those items that we can see: safety specialties, fireplaces. You know, those are typical examples of things that you will include in specialties. Visual display boards, cubicles, pest control items. This board, this wide arrays, for example, will be considered a specialty. Chalkboards, dartboards, whiteboards, lockers, scales. So all of those items can be included in specialties. Often added after the finishes of the project are completed, so it's kind of the last things that you will put in, like also with the furniture. Sometimes it's not in the drawings. You need to look at the specifications to make sure if they are included or not. Most commonly they are accounted by pieces, each one of those, and you have a budget for the installation. Sometimes the items here are difficult to group, so it's sometimes referred as catch-all. When you have an item that you don't know where to put it, then it goes into specialty. Then we have equipment. Equipment can be any type of equipment. Vehicles could be residential equipment, food service equipment, scientific equipment. So depending on what project you're doing, you may have different type of equipment. In our course project, I believe we have some food service equipment because we have a kitchen over there. So that would be an example. We have also a small store that could have specialty equipment. Libraries, banks, laboratories, all of those have specialized equipment. Sometimes you have, the one thing you got to be really careful about is some of those equipment may need specialties, special utilities, gas, steam, water, drainage. So you have to look carefully at this equipment and make sure that if it does require any special utilities that you included into your estimate. Residential equipment, cabinets, pre-assembled cabinets, shelf units, built ovens, you know, those can be considered also specialties. Then, you know, this is a gray area because sometimes you can include these cabinets into woods, right? So you include in your wood division the carpentry, and these are listed here as specialties because they come pre-assembled. Yes?
For the equipment, is it mostly like you put it in the bid, or is it that the owner puts his own?
It depends. It depends on how the contract is, what's the scope of the work. Oftentimes, the owner deals with different people for equipment than the contractor. Like when I used to work for Pepsi, you know, you will have a contractor for the building itself, and then you will have a different contractor for the equipment. Because the special is so specialized that you need to have, you know, separate contracts and deal with different type of people. However, there are cases when Pepsi will say, I want a complete plant with, you know, it's what they call a turnkey project. Basically, you give the owner the key, turn it on, go work with it. That's the term that they use. So in that case, the contract includes both the civil engineering work and the equipment with all the utilities and specialties. So those are pretty large contracts that are handled by a contractor that has knowledge on both areas, material handling, processing equipment, and also civil work. So that would be one case where you have the whole package. You have everything included into one bid or proposal. Normally that's not the case, but it could happen. So depending on where you're working at, you may have different. A smaller example could be, a bakery, where you have the oven and you have it may be specialized, and you are in charge of the installation, but not buying it. It will be bought by the owner, but you have to install it, or be responsible of the coordination for the installation. So it really depends on how the contract is written and what is included. That's a good area to ask, the question, the architect do an RFI or, Furnishing. This is normally done by the owner, but in some cases, if you have a theater, the owner may say, okay, go ahead and put the seatings over there, so you will be responsible for that, and that may be into furnishing. Art, that normally, window treatments, that's normally by the owner, but again, it could be different. Here are examples of things that can be considered furnishing. And again, you see cabinets appear here again. So, where do you put that? Do you put that in wood? Do you put that in specialties? Do you put that in furnishings? It depends. The only important thing is, don't put it 3 times into your estimate, right? If you decide to put it into furnishing, then stick with it and keep everything there. Usually the takeoff is by items. Then we have special construction. These are a construction that is not what would be considered normal. You may have special structures or special foundations for equipment that is really heavy, that requires vibration isolation or something like that. So that could be considered special construction. If you need bases for sauna rooms or silos, that could be considered special construction. Normally those items are supplied by specialty companies, but you may have to do either the support for the equipment or provide the utilities if they have it there. Conveying systems, you may have elevators, escalators, moving walks, lifts, some items that either move people, equipment, vehicles, it depends. So those are normally provided by a specialty company, and then you will be responsible for the coordination of the installation. Some notes about elevators must comply with the regulations, and it depends if it is a new equipment or remodelation. What it is. You normally have to specify what is the capacity, how many people are going to be in there, if it's going to be used for freights, if it's going to stop on every floor or every 2 floors, whatever it is. Sometimes the buildings are divided into sections, so one elevator will cover a section of the building and another one will go the rest. So those are things to consider when you have an elevator.